staying in, and if so, what would be the impact on that?
I don't see that immediately here. Yes, the demographics, talk about the state graying and, all of those things. But I think you're also starting to see some studies that take the other side of that argument. I can just say anecdotally, my son lives here in town, and both my boys, when they got out of college, came back to New Hampshire, and they have no trouble finding jobs, and and the like. I think so. I've always felt, and some of the folks that, like Peter Francis or others that have taken the cudgel up of how we are graying, are friends of mine, and I don't always agree with the conclusions that they draw. But to your point, specifically to the system, we are still what I would describe as a fairly immature system. We are younger than many of our public pension peers. Right now we have, call it 75,000 members, 23,000 give or take who are retired. So we have two retirees, or two active members for every retiree. So, and that is after a decade where our retired members have grown by 50%, fairly substantial. So we are nowhere near being in the circumstances that some of the other public funds might be in other states where they have one active employee for every retiree, or even fewer. We have a ways to go before we'll get to that point.
You indicate in terms of the Board of Trustees, aid or beneficiaries, do they pass upon change, or does it, if somebody makes a recommendation for change, do they vote on that? Do they?
It depends on what you mean by change. Their job as trustees, not just the 8 member trustees, but all of them, is to act as a fiduciary for the trust. So if you're talking about change in plan benefits or anything like that, no, absolutely not. That is the sole responsibility of the legislature.
Changing the age of retirements and
that's the legislature.
And
yeah, they would not be. As I said earlier, the primary responsibility of the Board of Trustees is to ensure the financial soundness of the trust. And to go back to the point that was made earlier, I think you could probably make a pretty strong argument that a failing of the Board of Trustees in 1991 was not to push back on the legislature on some of the proposals that they were making at the time that have turned out to bite us down the road. But they absolutely do not vote on any of the plan design changes that would be in the legislature.
What is the state's contribution again on his retirement?
The state's contribution?
Yeah.
You're not talking about their share?
Of the retirement, their share of the retirement.
Well, for your employees, I'll give you the complete history here. When the several retirement systems that existed independently, teachers, firefighters, police, and others, were combined in the late 1960s. At that point in time, the state agreed to pay 40% of the employer costs for the teacher group, the police group, and the fire group. To the extent that other employees are members of the retirement system, the local employer, the town of Hampton, pays their employer costs entirely. So the state only shares in those 3 employee groups. In the late 1970s, that 40% was changed to 35%, and as I think we all know, in this last legislature, they changed to 35% to 30% for the fiscal 10 year, to 25% for fiscal 11, and then it would revert back to 35% in fiscal 12.
What's the probability of that?
Well, I'm not a betting man, but I guess I would just make the observation that it is in the statute that it reverts. So for it not to revert, there has to be an affirmative vote to change it.
That change from 35 to 30 to 25 is going to be done on the backs of the taxpayer.
Oh, I lived that conversation, trust me. That's a $27 million impact across the state over the biennium, roughly $9 million in this year and $18 million next year.
And I have a fear that it'll go from 25 to 20 to 15 to 10 or whatever.
As I say, it could. All I can offer is, as I said, that, the statute mandates that it returns to 35% in 12. So obviously next year, come January, they're back in session. So anything could change. Actually, not in this session, but in the next.
Any other questions, Mr. Zanoy? No? I'd like to thank you for coming here tonight. Do you have any other things that you'd like to?
I'll just reiterate, thank you for the invitation. I joke it's convenient that I'm right around the corner, but I would do this if you were on the other side of the state as well. But I hope that you will feel as though you can come to the system for the information that you need to ask the questions that you need to have answered, and understand that I am trying to position us as being responsive, being responsible, and also to be a solutions provider. If there are future conversations and proposals about whatever might come down the road, my goal is to position the system as a partner for you and for the state to provide what you need. I don't want you to feel as though you have to make a decision either to get in or stay out or get in, because of changes in the law. We're here to work with you and with the state as the plan sponsor. So that's our commitment.
Rick, I'd like to make one other comment to slip my mind, because I'm sure, the governor signed HB 641 last Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially all 6 of our unions are not, all 6 have an exemption to the spiking charges. So that was good news.
Well, and that if I can put in a pitch, be nice to me. What that legislation says is that they essentially look to the system to say, come up with what the solution should be.
Right.
So if you have any input on that over the next couple of months, I'm sure.
One of the things, though, that hurt us, we had 5 or 6 unions operating under status quo without a contract, and with 1645, we would be hit with spiking charges. What HB 641 did was provide us with an exclusion by virtue of adding unions that were operating under status quo.
Conversation. And I would just say that I think, as you all know, not only House Bill 641, but House Bill 223 delayed the implementation of the original law until next July 1. House Bill 641, as it was originally designed, had an improved methodology for calculating that. The Senate set that aside, and the House agreed to the set aside to sort of throw it back on us. So I'm working with our actuary now on, what the final recommendation might be, which we're due to deliver by the 1st of December.
Any other final comments from the board?
One final, it's tied, I guess, to you being responsible to help raise the funds and then disperse them. New England State, as of recent, changed their retirement system and what they were going to do. And my understanding is that like 56 of the top-ranking individuals in the state police immediately filed. If there are changes and you have a run, you guys prepared?
Certainly. It's our job to be prepared. And yes, whether it's, the financial resources to, pay the retirements or whatever it might be, absolutely.
I was somewhat shocked by the number, but...
Well, I do know that there was some concern within New Hampshire earlier this year. There were some fairly serious misconceptions about what the age proposal, the increase in the retirement age for the Group 2 employees, what the impact of that would have been.